Hamburg. Um, Yet another boring keynote about the cloud native stuff. So my name is Ihor Dvoretskyi. I'm a developer advocate at CNCF, and Craig McLuckie recently has highlighted a few notes about CNCF. And today I'll highlight to you the cloud native evolution. What do we do at CNCF? How have we started working on that? And what is the future of the cloud native world? So I've joined CNCF around a year ago, but before that, I've been a Kubernetes contributor for years. I'm a Kubernetes contributor for around 2.5 years, and I've started working with Kubernetes even before it reached its 1.0 milestone. So I've been really excited to notice this project on a general industry landscape around 3.5 years ago and started evaluating that. At the same time, Kubernetes is not the first project in this world that solves these problems, these issues. And let's start from the beginning. So what do you see on this picture? Any ideas? It's the generic application around 15 years ago. It's the monolithic, glacier, rock-solid application that will work forever, but it will be almost impossible for you to easily upgrade it, easily redeploy it, easily solve any issues if they will appear. So that's the typical monolithic application. Those people from this audience who had experience working with personal computers in the pre-internet era, do you remember how have you installed some new software on your personal computers? You went to the physical store, ordered some physical devices like floppy disk or compact disks, came back to your home and installed a newer version of your software, of the software, some game or operating system or text processor or anything else. So today, the situation is totally different, right? So in 20 years, you can easily receive the new version of the operating system on your mobile device like multiple times per day. Speaking about the web applications, the process of receiving the new version of the web application is absolutely transparent for you. It happens on the router side, not on the side of your local client. So this world has definitely changed. And what was happening here? So the industry has started breaking the ice. And again, as Craig mentioned in his keynote a few minutes ago, the evolution has started with the containers. In the pre-container era, we had the hardware devices, we had the hardware machines. After that, we had the virtual machines. After virtual machines, the technologies like cgroup namespaces, and after that, the containerized technologies like Linux containers or OpenWZ have been developed. At the same time, even Linux containers and even OpenWZ have been the technologies that have been emulating the behavior of the typical virtual machine. So in general cases, Linux containers were simply the simplified version of the typical virtual machine. But after that, people from Docker came to the market, and they have developed this technology that allowed you to use the same underlying technologies like cgroup namespaces, Linux containers, and so on, but to deploy and manage your applications easier. And that was the beginning of the microservices era, the period when destroying an application was the benefit for you. Because in a single period of time, you could have, for example, you're running the website. In a single period of time, you can have like 10 unique attendees per day. But tomorrow, you're releasing some new product. And you may have up to 10,000 unique attendees per day on your website. And that means that in the old school legacy monolithic style application world, you had to even order some new hardware to deploy your new applications. You had to scale in some way using their virtual machines and so on. In the cloud native world, you can solve this issue pretty easy with a few clicks in your web interface of your IaaS provider or with the local deployment of Kubernetes or any other similar technology. So this project was the major milestone. The Kubernetes was the major milestone of the way how can we solve the problems with scaling the applications. How can we run applications in the different scale? Because again, Docker was an amazing solution. Docker is an amazing solution for running locally on your local machine, on your laptop, on a single machine. But what if I have have 2 machines? What if I have 10 machines? What if I have 5,000 machines? How will I scale? And Kubernetes is the project that allows you to do it. So if you heard the recent news from the Kubernetes community last year in one of the releases that have been presented by the project, Kubernetes has announced the support for up to 5,000 nodes. The single Kubernetes cluster can handle up to 5,000 nodes. That means that you can easily plan your infrastructure, your environment in that way that will satisfy any kind of your needs. The velocity and diversity of Kubernetes is also significant. On this slide, you may notice the results of the poll that CNCF, together with our friends from the NewsTech, if you don't know who the NewsTech are, please check their website. They're amazing source of truth in their open source world. So we've conducted a survey where we have collected the data from the end users of Kubernetes and from the different technologies, how many of these technologies are being used. And the Kubernetes is the significant leader. I have to also notice that this poll has been conducted in the end of last year. So today, these numbers can be even bigger. And the second note also that here you may notice that 69% is only to the pure Kubernetes dedicated. But the Google Container Engine, the time it was called Google Container Engine, today it's the Google Kubernetes Engine. This technology also uses Kubernetes under the hood. Also, you may notice here OpenShift, that is the PaaS technology developed by Red Hat, but that is also using Kubernetes under the hood. So the real number for Kubernetes velocity and for Kubernetes popularity in this world are much bigger. And the second notable result from that poll that I'd like to highlight here is that how many people and how many consumers that are using containers, how many of them are using Kubernetes. So here you may notice how the numbers are different from every cloud provider or on the on-premise services, but the general result is almost the same. So almost every organization, almost every user, almost every customer who is running containers today, well, at the end of last year, they are using Kubernetes. So Kubernetes today is the de facto standard for running your applications, for running your containerized applications, for running your cloud-native applications, for building microservices. And the most notable achievement of Kubernetes, since it was released originally 4 years ago. A few months ago, the beginning of March, Kubernetes has been graduated as the first official graduated CNCF project. So for those who are not familiar with their CNCF project structure, we have sandbox projects that are pretty young projects that are currently in the sandbox stage. They're gaining their community, that they're at the early days of their open source development. We have the incubated projects that are the most popular projects of the CNCF that are well-known projects, and Kubernetes was one of them. It was the first incubated project, and it has been an incubated project. It was in the stage of incubation for around 2 years. But now Kubernetes is the first and the single, as of current moment, the graduated project. That means that we, as the open source foundation, we totally encourage you as the end users, we totally encourage you as the developers to start using it, to leverage it. If you are a company that is building some commercial services and you are considering an ability to use Kubernetes for your commercial services, Kubernetes is also enough mature for you to build some commercial products on top of it. So That's about Kubernetes, and that's about the history of that, and it's about the brief history of this world. So what happens today? Today, CNCF is the huge organization under the Linux Foundation. As I mentioned before, Kubernetes was the first project, Kubernetes was the seed project, Kubernetes was the reason why CNCF was founded. At the same time, the foundation around Kubernetes wasn't called the Kubernetes Foundation. The foundation was called Cloud Native Computing Foundation because we have multiple areas and multiple aspects where you can benefit from using the different open source technologies. And another reason why we have so huge number of different projects here in the CNCF world is because Kubernetes cannot satisfy all of your needs. And Kubernetes don't need to satisfy all your needs. Kubernetes doesn't do monitoring. No solid and production-ready login solution is built into Kubernetes. Kubernetes is not about storage, it's not about container runtimes and so on. So on this slide, you may notice the huge number of projects that can make your usage of Kubernetes so successful as it could be. And what is more important, almost all these projects can be used independently from Kubernetes. For example, if you need only the login solution for the cloud-native environment, but you don't use Kubernetes for some reasons, you can easily install and use Fluentd. For example, containerd is the container runtime that is the basis for Docker containers. You can easily run Docker without Kubernetes, right? And if you're using Docker today in 2018, you're using containerd. And the same story is about almost all these projects. Another big note about the members of CNCF. So the founding commercial company of CNCF together with the Linux Foundation, so the first company that put the idea that we have to develop the new independent foundation was Google. At the same time, today we have around 20 platinum members and a huge number of members and users and other kind of supporters that are companies that are contributing to this space, that are using these technologies, that are building some solutions on top of these technologies. It is a pure open source world where even the market rivals follow the same path. And also at CNCF, we developed some projects that simplify your vision, simplify your understanding what happens in this world. If you're a newcomer to this ecosystem, you definitely require some trail map. So at CNCF, we developed the Cloud Native Trail Map, the pretty funny project, but totally useful. The great visualization of your path if you are looking to the cloud-native technologies, if you're looking to the world of the containerized technologies. And here on this path, you may notice how can you start with containerization? How can you proceed to CI/CD? How can you use, for example, some storage and networking solutions or some messaging solutions? How different container runtimes can benefit you. And on this trail map, you may notice how all the CNCF projects are benefiting each other. They're not competing with each other. They're benefiting each other and benefiting you as the end users at the final end. Besides that, we also have this amazing landscape. It's an amazing picture especially for the Andros to check your eyes because you can see almost nothing here. We had much bigger icons at the beginning. Today we have almost zero people in this hall can read the icons on this slide. So we have developed the landscape, the simplified version on a single page and a single picture of almost all the technologies that exist in the world. They can be open source technologies, that can be closed source technologies, that can be commercial or purely community driven. It can be solutions that are driven by CNCF or solutions that are driven by some different foundations and or moving on their own. At the same time, this slide describes all the possible combinations, all the possible technologies that may satisfy your needs. If you're looking, for example, for some cloud-native storage, you can simply look to the part that is called the cloud-native storage. You may pick any solutions there. You may read information there about them. How can you benefit from using specifically this product or this solution from the cloud native storage world? But as I mentioned before, it's pretty hard to read everything that's here, and it's even pretty hard to contact with, to have an interaction with these icons, to find some information about these projects and so on. So the next project that we've developed at CNCF is the interactive landscape. And it's an amazing sample of evolution. How can you build the interactive version of everything that happens in this world? With the interactive landscape, you can try it right now at l.cncf.io, at landscape.cncf.io, so feel free to check it right now. Again, you may find all these projects that have been mentioned on the previous slide, but they are mentioned in a much simplified form, and you may also find the links to these projects. You may sort them in an appropriate way. You may find, for example, all the CI/CD solutions that are open sourced. If you're looking for CI/CD solution that is open sourced and so on, so they can be categorized in any way, they can be sorted in any way, and so on. So that's much easier way of your interaction with the cloud native world. And what is the most important about it? The most important is community. Anybody here has any idea how many contributors do we have to CNCF projects? 10,000? 15? We have more than 23 contributors to all 23,000 contributors to all the CNCF projects. We also have the huge meetup community, for example. And for example, here in Hamburg, almost the same people who've been organizing this conference, they're also driving the local meetups. And we have around 1,500 meetups worldwide that are not only dedicated to Kubernetes and some specific technologies, but that are also dedicated to the world container and to world cloud native world. We even have around 50 CNCF ambassadors, people who spending their time, people who are volunteering or working for some member companies that are driving meetups, that are working with the local communities, that are working with the global communities and spreading the word about the cloud native technologies. We also have a huge number of initiatives. For example, in the Kubernetes community, we have the mentoring initiatives. If you are a newcomer to this community, if you are interested in some sort of contribution to Kubernetes or to the related technologies, you can simply go meet the contributors, meet the existing contributors, start finding a mentor, start looking for some ways of contribution to Kubernetes and to some pieces of Kubernetes. Again, for example, CNCF is an organization that participates in a Google Summer of Code and a similar initiatives. For example, with Google Summer of Code this time we have 7 successful projects that are moving forward. So community is the most important part. And that's all. Thank you.